There are places on Earth where time moves differently, where the trees feel older than history, and the silence feels louder than a scream. The wilderness doesn't hate you. It doesn't love you. It doesn't even notice you. It simply exists. And if you enter unprepared, or unlucky, or just one step off the path, it can erase you. Now imagine being 89 years old, not in a hospital bed, not sitting by a window, but out there, alone, in the Idaho backcountry. No phone signal, no map that makes sense anymore, no human voice for days. Just the wind, the cold nights, the hunger that slowly becomes pain, and the fear that starts whispering. No one is coming. But then, something impossible happens. After nearly 10 days missing, after search teams begin losing hope, after the world quietly prepares for tragedy, this man is found alive, and what he did to survive is not only shocking, it's inspiring. This is the story of the 89-year-old hiker who disappeared in Idaho and fought his way back from the edge of death. Pause. And before this video ends, you will understand something terrifying. Sometimes survival is not about strength. It's about choices. Small choices made correctly when everything is falling apart. To understand how someone survives nearly 10 days alone in the wild, you need to understand who they were before they got lost. At 89 years old, most people are told to slow down, to be careful, to avoid risk. But there are certain people who never truly accept that life is meant to shrink. For them, life is meant to expand. This hiker wasn't chasing danger. He wasn't trying to prove anything to anyone. He simply loved the outdoors. He loved the way mountains make you feel small and free at the same time. He loved the quiet of trails where you can hear your own breathing, where the world feels clean again, where every step feels like a conversation with nature. He planned his hike like he always did. Supplies packed, essentials ready, food counted. A 5-day trip, not a reckless journey. 5 days of hiking, 5 days of campfires, 5 days of returning to the kind of life that feels real. And then he stepped into the Idaho wilderness, not knowing that the wilderness was about to turn a simple hike into a survival story the world would never forget. Every tragedy begins with something small, not a disaster, not an explosion, not a storm. Sometimes it begins with a decision that feels harmless, a turn that seems correct, a trail that looks familiar, a shortcut that saves time. At first, everything is normal. He walks under tall trees. The ground is uneven but manageable. The air smells like pine and earth. Birds call from above. Somewhere far away, water runs over rocks. And then, the trail becomes less clear. The wilderness does that. It slowly blurs the line between path and wilderness, between safe and dangerous. He keeps walking. Maybe he thinks the trail will return. Maybe he believes he just needs to cross one ridge. But the further he goes, the more unfamiliar everything becomes. And then he stops. He turns around, he looks back, and the trail behind him doesn't look like the trail he came from. That moment, that exact moment, is when fear enters your bloodstream, because being lost doesn't happen like it does in movies. It doesn't come with dramatic music at first. It comes with a quiet thought. This doesn't look right. Then another thought. Where is the trail? Then the worst thought of all. I don't know where I am. He tries to reason with himself. He tries to stay calm. He scans the trees, the slope, the ridgeline. He tries to find landmarks. But the wilderness is a cruel maze. Trees look like trees. Rocks look like rocks. Every direction looks possible. And when the sun begins to shift lower, a second fear arrives. Night is coming. If you've never been lost in the wild, you may not understand this. Daytime wilderness is beautiful. Nighttime wilderness is something else. The temperature drops fast, the shadows stretch long, and suddenly, everything you ignored during the day becomes terrifying. Every crack of a branch sounds like footsteps. Every rustle sounds like something watching you, and you start realizing, you are not the biggest thing in this forest. You are not the fastest thing in this forest. You are not the strongest thing in this forest. You are just human. He finds a place to rest. Not comfortable, not safe, just a place. He sets up what he can. He conserves energy. And in the darkness, his mind begins to fight him. Because the body has one enemy. But the mind has thousands. The mind shows you images. What if no one finds you? What if you fall? What if you get sick? At 89 years old, the body cannot take abuse like it once could. A cold night isn't just uncomfortable, it's dangerous. A small injury isn't just painful, it's a death sentence. And yet, he survives the first night, not because it's easy, but because he does what most people forget. He doesn't panic, he doesn't run blindly, he rests, he waits. He hopes morning brings answers. Morning arrives like a blessing. The light returns. The world feels less haunted. And with daylight comes optimism. Because on day 2 you still believe. Rescue is close. You still believe you can fix it. He drinks water. He eats carefully. And then he makes a choice. A choice every lost person must make. Do I stay? Or do I move? Staying can help searchers find you. Moving can lead you back, or deeper into danger. He chooses carefully. He tries to navigate. He watches the terrain. He tries to recognize slopes and valleys. But the wilderness doesn't give easy answers. Hours pass. No rescue, no hikers. The sun climbs higher. Then begins to fall again, and the second night approaches. But this time, hope is thinner, because now the truth is forming. He may not be found quickly. By day 3, survival becomes math, not emotion, not motivation. Math that was, how much food do I have? How many days can I stretch it? How much energy do I spend walking? How much do I save by resting? He brought supplies for 5 days. That sounds like a lot, until you realize what it means. When day 6 arrives, there is no extra. So he begins rationing, not small meals, tiny amounts, a few bites, a handful. He chooses snacks that last, jerky, nuts, anything dense with calories, not eating for comfort. Eating to keep the engine running, and in the wild, your body becomes an engine. It consumes energy to stay warm. It consumes energy to walk. It consumes energy to think. Even fear burns calories, and hunger changes you. At first, hunger is a feeling, then it becomes pain, then it becomes weakness, then it becomes a voice that says, "Stop." But he refuses. Most people fear hunger, but hunger is slow. Water is fast. Without water, you don't have 10 days. You have a few. And wilderness water is not always safe. Clear water can still carry parasites. It can still carry bacteria. It can still make you violently ill. And illness in the wild is a killer. But he had something crucial. Water treatment. Purification tablets. It's such a small object, and yet it can be the difference between life and death. He finds water sources. He treats them. He waits for the process. He drinks. He survives. And each day, he continues. Becomes more unbelievable. Because the longer you're lost, the less likely you are to return. And yet, he keeps returning to life, again and again, each morning, while he fights to survive. Somewhere far away, a different fight begins. The fight of the people waiting for him. Because at first, missing hikers are not missing. They're just late. Maybe he took a longer route. Maybe he decided to camp one more night. But then hours become terrifying, and the words begin to form. Something is wrong. Someone reports him missing, and suddenly, the situation changes. Search and rescue is alerted, and the wilderness becomes a battlefield. Not against an enemy with a face, but against time. Teams prepare. Volunteers show up. Maps are studied. Routes are planned. They know the terrain is harsh. They know weather can shift. And they know he is 89 years old. That number hangs in the air like a storm cloud. Because it changes everything. It makes every hour heavier. And when the search begins, hope is loud at first, but the wilderness is bigger than hope. The search teams move quickly. Helicopters cut through the sky. Drones scan valleys. People on foot search trails and ridges. They call his name. They look for signs, footprints, broken branches, a campfire ring, anything. But the wilderness hides evidence. Wind erases tracks. Rain washes away clues. Animals disturb campsites. And there's another brutal truth. You can be very close to someone in the wilderness and still never see them. Because trees block sight, terrain blocks sound, distance lies, a person can scream, and no one hears. The search continues, day after day, but with every passing hour, the rescue teams are fighting something they can't defeat. Probability, because after a certain point, survival becomes unlikely. But no one says that out loud, because hope is a tool too, and they need it. Day 5 arrives. This was supposed to be the last day. The day he walked out. the day he returned to safety. Instead, he is still out there, and now his supplies are nearly gone. He has to make hard decisions. Do I keep moving? Do I stay? Do I risk energy for a chance at escape? And the wilderness keeps testing him. Cold nights, rough terrain, the exhaustion of carrying your own fear. And at 89, even standing up can feel like climbing a mountain. But he continues. By day 6, your body starts to fail. Your muscles weaken. Your balance becomes uncertain. Dehydration begins to affect your mind. You forget things, you feel dizzy, your steps become slower. And this is where many people make fatal mistakes. They slip, they fall, they injure themselves, and once you can't move, the wilderness doesn't need to chase you. It only needs to wait. But he avoids disaster. He moves carefully. He conserves energy. He chooses survival over speed. And the fact that he's still alive becomes more and more unbelievable. People think survival is physical. It's not. It's mental. Because the body can endure a lot. But the mind breaks quietly. By day 7, you start bargaining with reality. You imagine voices, you relive memories, you talk to yourself, not because you're losing your mind, but because silence is a weapon. Silence makes you feel erased, and the wilderness is silent, so he fills the silence with determination. One more day, one more sip. One more step, and then another night comes, and he survives it too. Near day 9, something changes, not the weather, not the terrain. Fate. A group of locals travels through the wilderness on horseback. They're not in a helicopter. They don't have advanced technology. But they have something powerful. Patience, and perspective. From horseback, you see differently. You move differently. You notice things. And then they find a camp, a sign, something human. And suddenly, the impossible becomes possible. They alert authorities. They move closer. And then they see him. Weak, dehydrated, but alive. Alive after nearly 10 days. A miracle, standing on tired legs. The rescue is not loud at first. It's quiet. It's disbelief. Because when someone is missing this long, you don't expect a happy ending. But there he is. Alive. And in that moment, everyone involved feels it. Relief, shock, gratitude. Because survival stories like this don't happen often. They check him. He's dehydrated, but stable. And when he is finally brought back, the wilderness loses. For once, this story is not just a miracle. It's a warning. Because nature doesn't forgive mistakes. But it's also a reminder. Humans are stronger than we think. We don't know our limits until we are forced to meet them. And he met his at 89. If you want the next story, subscribe now so you don't miss the next survival story.